Prepare yourselves for a battle of epic proportions between two titans. Feast upon their voices and revel in their words. This is Dueling Ogres.
Hello, Ogres, and welcome to episode 94. Thank you for joining us as always on this full moon over Parma, Tuesday evening, Earth date October 25th, 2016. I'm your host, Remington Hitchcock, and with me as always is my co-host, Brandon Full. Say hello, Brandon.
Hello, Remington, and hello, everybody out there on the internet.
All right, you're not going to do your help, I'm stuck in the computer thing that you always...
No, why would I do that?
Because you're not here, you're in the computer.
I'm just at my house streaming, Remington.
Oh.
To you. It's not a big deal.
Okay. So
let's not make it a thing.
You're just done with that? With your wine glass? Okay.
I feel like I'd never really started it. It was just a one-time joke.
I think you did it 2 and or 3 times.
Nah, I don't recall.
Definitely 2, probably 3.
That does not sound like me.
Well, I mean, a lot of things don't sound like you. Like, any man voice doesn't sound like you.
Okay, well, that was hurtful right off the bat. Is that how this is starting?
Yeah,
I think you're stupid.
So, what have you been up to this week, Brandon?
Nothing, really. Actually, I got my Xbox One last weekend.
Sweet, from NASA?
So, I have been playing that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Whenever I have free time. And also, sorry.
Oh, that's all right. Did NASA give you any cool games to play on that?
It came with Battlefield 1.
Yeah.
And then no, NASA did not give me any cool games. I had to purchase them from NASA.
Well, I mean, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I picked up Minecraft so I could play that with my daughter.
Yeah.
And then I also rented Far Cry Primal from NASA as well.
Have you played any of it yet?
I played like maybe 2 or 3 hours a few nights ago. I haven't had a whole lot of time to really sit down. It's fun though. It's like a first-person shooter that takes place in 10,000 BC.
Yeah.
So you are a caveman hunting other cavemen and like saber-toothed tigers and weird unevolved deer and stuff like that.
Okay. Huh.
Have you ever played a Far Cry game?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
Have I ever played any games, Brandon?
I mean, I assume at some point in your life you've enjoyed even 5 minutes of fun.
No, not that I can think of.
What's your favorite board game?
What do you mean, like cherry or mahogany?
You. I imagine you as a shoots and ladders kind of guy.
Oh.
Something simple, easy to grasp, something a child could enjoy.
Uh-huh.
Just as a you know.
As a guess. Mousetrap.
Mousetrap?
Yeah.
Because of the contraption element?
Oh yeah, totally. I like to fiddle.
I don't know if I've ever played a game of Mousetrap through to completion.
Oh yeah? Yeah.
I think we would always get too into the idea of the mousetrap and then try to build our own mousetraps.
Right. That makes sense, but you know me, I'm also a bit of a rule monger, so I'm like, No, you have to play the mousetrap. You have to trap the mouse. The whole point of this game is fucking trapping the mouse, so let's trap the mouse.
Wait, aren't you the mouse? I thought the point was to not get trapped.
I don't remember now. No?
You don't even remember your favorite board game?
No.
Yeah, because I thought you had to move and not set off the trap early.
No, because the trap was at the end.
Yeah, but you could move and... I guess I don't know fuck all about mousetrap.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember now either, so... That was like 412 years ago, Brandon.
Yeah. So Battlefield 1 on the Xbox is unlike Mousetrap in that it is an amazing game.
Okay.
Enjoyable to play.
Right.
It's based in World War One, and battlefields have been based in like not World War II, like modern warfare. But this one goes back to World War One, and the story it sounds weird because Battlefield is one of those like Call of Duty games. It's just like alpha males playing multiplayer, chugging dews and like fucking Call of Duty, man.
Right.
But the story is like super weirdly poignant. You start out the game and it gives a brief backstory on World War One, and then it takes you to a battlefield, and it starts you out, and you're there with a gun, and it says you are on the front lines. You are not expected to survive. Defend as long as you can, and you're just shooting Germans, and then eventually you just get overrun. Like it's just endless until they kill you,
Right.
and you die. And then the name of a soldier pops up on screen with like birth to death dates. And then the camera pans out and takes you to another soldier. And you play them just real quick. And you're dying like maybe once every 30, 45 seconds.
Wow.
And every time you do, it's the name of a different soldier and when they lived to when they died in the war.
Wow.
Like it really is making a point about just the craziness of World War One and like the massive loss of life.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah, it really surprised me.
Huh.
So what about you? What have you been up to?
I also really haven't been up to anything. I haven't even been up to playing video games. We've still been plugging along in World of Warcraft, and that's kind of about it. Really, I haven't. I'm finishing up my last little bit at my other jobs, and then I'll have like a full Mondays and Tuesdays will be my day off. My days off. And I won't have to work on anything else, and I can do other projects and catch up on crap around the house and, all the boring adulting stuff.
So we're hoping to set Monday or Tuesday as a recording day then?
Yes. I mean, you seem to work a lot of Mondays. Mondays, by and large, would be better for me. That way I can have all of Tuesday to just sit down and edit at my leisure. But, still gotta work around each other.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you don't want to come home Monday evening and record a podcast after working, so.
No, I probably could. I just don't like doing it online if I can do it in person.
Right.
Because it's weird. I feel like it comes through the episodes that it's weird.
In that, I mean, I don't know. I think the more you do it, the more you'll get used to it.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I need to do is just do it more. I mean, it gets me away from you, which is a bonus, I guess.
Yeah, because you don't have to smell all that like mayonnaise and Crisco and bacon fat and lard and garbage, hot garbage.
Yeah, okay.
Mint.
You know the secret?
Mint julep. Because I drink a lot of mint juleps.
Mayonnaise beside me whenever I'm here recording.
Oh, yeah?
Just so it's like I'm at your house.
Well, let's see it.
It's on the floor.
I'm waiting, Brandon.
I've been waiting. Hold on, wait here. It's gone. They must have gotten back to the kitchen. I made a sandwich a couple minutes ago, and I used a lot of mayonnaise, and I took it back to the kitchen, and that's got to be where it is. It's in the kitchen where I put the mayonnaise in the mayonnaise drawer. I have a mayonnaise cubby where I keep the mayonnaise. It's like, Lazy Susan, I call it a lazy mayonnaise because I keep so much mayonnaise in this rotating drawers. I've got the mayonnaise drawer is probably where I put it. It's just a lot of mayonnaise in there, and not just in jars. It's just free. It's free range mayonnaise. I go and visit it on holidays. I see it from day to day. I could see it more. I regret that I put the mayonnaise where it is, but it was best for the family for me to put it there, and I know that it's being taken care of. And it's always excited to see me whenever. None of this works for audio at all.
I know.
Because it's just me talking about mayonnaise while you are making increasingly more horrific faces into the webcam.
Yeah, that was a sight gag. See, this is the plus of doing it on YouTube is we can do sight gags.
Yeah, but people aren't going to want to watch this.
Yeah, you're right. Nobody's going to watch this.
Yeah, and I'll have to comb my hair.
Yeah.
I'll have to change out of pajama pants, which I'm certainly not doing.
Well, no, you wouldn't have to change out of pajama pants.
I do a lot of torso-based comedy, though.
I have no pants on at all, so...
I'm going to guess that's a lie. You don't really hang around your house without pants on.
Well, not when you're here.
That look, don't give that look. It's horrifying. It's like you're seducing and having a stroke at the same time.
I am. So, what are we talking about this episode?
I don't know.
Did you bring any news? Did you prepare for anything?
I did, because this episode is going to come out the week before Halloween.
Yeah.
I have some just kind of goings-on news to talk about as far as things that are happening this week, and then I also have some werewolf news.
Oh, are we gonna try to do it? Didn't we do witches last year?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're moving on to werewolves.
Mm-hmm. And then next year we'll have to find another W-based monster.
The whatchamacallit?
Wendigos.
Oh yeah, the Wendigos. We could do Wendigos. I mean, Wendigos aren't necessarily synonymous with Halloween, though.
Yeah, but they're a monster. Are werewolves synonymous with Halloween?
Yeah, I'd say so. But Wendigos, not so much. I think that's more like a localized thing, perhaps.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I really want to stick with the W-based monsters now that we've done it 2 years in a row.
I mean, 2 years does not a habit make.
2 years? You speak of monsters. No, I got nothing. I was trying to come up with some sort of prophetic poem.
Some sort of haiku?
No, not a haiku, a poem. A prophetic poem.
A prophetic poem. What's a prophetic poem?
A poem that foretells a prophecy. A prophecy.
The prophecy has been fulfilled.
We are pretty underprepared for this episode, I think.
I mean, probably. You were doing notes last night. I was doing notes last night. And
all right, so let me get through my news real quick, and then we'll just move straight into werewolves.
Okay.
We'll talk about the wolves.
Okay.
Donald Glover, do you know who that is?
No.
He is an actor.
I know Danny Glover.
Yeah, this is not Danny Glover.
Good, because he's getting too old for this shit.
This guy. Do you recognize him?
Oh, yes.
I don't know what all he's been in, honestly. I saw him he was in some comedy videos on YouTube years ago where it was talking about frat boys coming over and bonding with each other and then having gay sex with each other.
Okay.
It had Bobby Moynihan in it, too.
Okay.
I know you've seen it before. They come over. It's like a Chris Hansen style. But instead of To Catch a Predator, it's like To Catch a Frat Boy or something.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh, yeah.
Because they open up the backpack and everybody keeps bringing big black dildos.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, I guess he was on 30 Rock.
I think I saw him on 30 Rock. I don't know if... Did he play a huge part? Was he one of the writers or something?
He was a writer, an actual writer on the show, and made occasional cameo appearances.
Okay, so yeah. I was gonna say I didn't think he was a regular on the show.
Oh, Community. That's where most people are gonna know him from.
Gotcha. Okay.
And he does an album also. I didn't know he was a musician. Anyway, all that aside, he has been cast as Lando Calrissian in the new Han Solo spinoff movie.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's cool.
Yep. So that's the only announcement so far, as I could find. I think you do a good job, though.
Do we know who Han Solo is going to be? Have they actually decided that yet?
No, I don't think so. I know they were doing casting like a couple months ago.
Yeah.
So they're probably still looking.
Oh, no. They have Alden...
Ehrenreich. Ehrenreich.
I assume that is how you would say it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He hasn't been in a super large number of things either.
Yeah, it looks like going back to 2005, he was in a couple things.
Yeah. I really want to see...
I don't know.
Yeah, it has him listed in Hail Caesar, which I really wanted to see, actually. But a lot of these I haven't really seen.
What do you think of them?
Although, down there at the very bottom of his IMDb, he played in an episode called Wendigo.
Really?
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
We've come full circle with the Wendigos.
Spooky. That's your Halloween spooks starting already. Rattle some chains and put on a sheet.
Yeah, do those things.
A pointed sheet.
No, you don't want to do a pointed sheet.
Like your traditional ghost? The pointed sheet with the eye holes cut out?
No, that's not traditional ghost.
Oh, is it not?
No, there's no point. Witches' hats have points.
Oh, see, I was trying to go as Ghost Witch.
I would stay far away from Ghost Witch.
What if I wanted to be a ghost sandwich? Then I could go Ghost Witch.
Well, yeah, you could go Ghost Witch then, but then it'd be less sheet and more bread. Just bake 2 6-foot pieces of bread and cut it in half. A big loaf, a 6-foot loaf of bread.
Are you picturing like slices of regular bread you would buy from the store, or are you picturing like an actual French loaf of bread cut in half with one side sandwiched between like a sub?
Yeah. Like a big sub bun, and then, 6 foot. Well, probably not 6 foot, because you want to be able to move your legs. So
yeah, I don't want it to be cumbersome.
Say 4.5 foot, 4 foot, 4.5 foot. So it covers up your upper body, and then cut eye holes in that.
Oh, so this is a shell.
Yeah. That way you could be the ghost
a
witch.
walking loaf of bread.
Well, no, you'd be a ghost witch.
Well, wouldn't the bread have to be against my body, and then I would be dressed in like condiments or sandwich fillings?
Yeah, totally.
And then a white pointed sheet, and then I would have my arms out of the sides.
Well,
you
still wouldn't need like the point on the top is what I'm trying to steer you away from.
Well, that could be like the ketchup. Oh, I could do like a red ketchup cross on my chest.
No, I'd say you should probably stay away from that too. I mean, let's be realistic, Brandon. When you make a sandwich, do you worship while you're making the sandwich? Do you put a cross on your bread?
Yeah, I always bless my sandwiches.
Well, I mean, there's blessing your sandwiches, and then there's drawing a red cross on them with ketchup.
Yeah, well, the thing is, there is a local priest. I don't want to name him just to let him keep his anonymity, but once a week I go to his church and I bring just large tubs of ketchup, like more than you would think I would need.
Uh-huh.
And he blesses all of them.
Uh-huh.
And then I put them into the little restaurant size ketchup dispensers.
Right.
And I take them home and I use them to bless literally everything in my house.
Gotcha.
It looks like an episode of CSI in my house with the amount of ketchup splatter that's everywhere.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to change my life because you don't think I should put the ketchup cross on my costume.
Well, okay, I mean, that's fine. If you want to put a ketchup cross on there, that's great. Can we just steer away from the pointed sheet then?
The sheet is non-negotiable. I've already bought my sheet.
To be fair, most sheets don't even have a point on them.
I know, it was special made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got it actually at a really cheap price. I found this German website, and they were really okay with haggling. So yeah, I got it almost for free. They sent me a whole bunch of literature I haven't read yet. But
this joke has gone way too far.
Is that too much?
I think we've driven this joke into the ground. I think it's dead.
Oh, speaking of driving into the ground, would you be able to help me carry this big cross? Bye, Remington.
Can't hear you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See ya.
Okay, so here's a story I read.
Yo, listen up. Here's a story about a little guy that lives in a blue world, and all day and all night.
I think that you got your song slightly confused.
I forget exactly how the lyrics go.
Okay, so scientists...
Yeah?
Scientists, those who study science, have found out that if they introduce seaweed into a cow's diet, because cows are, I don't think they're number one biggest producers of greenhouse gases, because that's cars, but I think they're pretty close.
When it comes to methane, yeah. Aside from the stuff that's just escaping from pockets of the earth, yes.
So they've discovered that if they introduce seaweed into cows' diets, it cuts their methane production by 80%.
Wow, that's crazy.
So they're looking at going forward with doing a seaweed-rich diet for cows to really cut down the emissions that they have.
Well, there's some pluses and some minuses to that, though. Number one, being the cows themselves and their diet. They're raised on grazing grasses. So
yeah, but I assume that they're looking to like the mass production cows. Huge slaughterhouses that just have the cows kind of locked in cages and they just slop them in whatever they're eating for the day.
Right.
That's probably the biggest producers.
Yeah. What I'm concerned with, and I guess I don't really have to be, it's not like they're harvesting seaweed from the ocean.
Well, they probably are.
I doubt it. I think they would probably grow the seaweed themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would be concerned about is if there would be any mercury. That's one of the reasons why they say you shouldn't eat a whole lot of fish, because fish get a lot of mercury from the ocean.
Yeah.
since it doesn't really break down. So that would be a concern, I would think, if they were harvesting it from the ocean.
Yeah, that is a good point. I don't know. I didn't really read into it enough to see if it listed what their plan was for getting that much seaweed.
Right.
Because I would also fear if they're harvesting, if they do just harvest it from the ocean, the amount of cows and the amount of beef that we produce, if it's enough to affect greenhouse gases, I mean, that is a shit ton of cows, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be so much seaweed they're going to be harvesting on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And then who knows if that has environmental repercussions itself. I don't know what purpose seaweed serves, but I'm sure it serves a purpose.
Yeah. And well, yeah, I mean, it's a filter really for the ocean.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the cow's diet. I mean, a cow is not made to eat seaweed, I wouldn't figure, long term.
Yeah.
So it would make me curious as to what effect it would have on the digestive tract of the cow, not just from a gaseous point of view, but also just sustaining it as well. But then again, I mean, seaweed is pretty rich in a lot of vitamins and minerals.
Yeah, seaweed is pretty good for you.
Yeah.
I just cannot stand it. I've tried it in a lot of different ways. We had in high school, I'm sure you remember, my parents had a Korean foreign exchange student.
Yeah.
And she would get a lot of seaweed from the Asian food store in our town. And I just tried to eat it dried. I tried to eat it on other stuff when she would cook it, and I just could not get past it.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely has a weird taste of its own.
It's like bitter, is what I remember, like bitter and dry.
Yeah, which is weird when it would come from the ocean. But, I mean, a lot of times it's dehydrated.
Yeah, and that's where I had it mostly.
Yeah.
I did want to show you, because I know there's the natural question of how do they know that cows are producing less methane because of seaweed, like how do they test that?
Right.
And I can show you they test it by putting a fart backpack on a cow. That is 100% a legitimate picture. Do you want to try to describe that picture to our listeners, Remington?
Okay. Picture the tubular nature of a wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man, but without the arms. And then picture it shorter and closed at either end, much like a pool blow-up toy that you would float on. And then picture that literally strapped to a cow with it riding on the top of the cow. And I can only assume that there is some sort of hose that... Oh, yes, in fact, you can actually kind of see the hose. Now, the question is that there's a hose coming from the front where the cow's head is, and it leads to the back end of the cow. Now, they don't show the back end, but I can only assume that it goes right into the cow's butthole.
Yeah.
And then collects the gas as the cow farts, I guess. I don't even know how they would get it.
What keeps the cow from pooping into the tube? This is the question that science really needs to answer. How do you keep the cow from pooping into the tube?
That's just it. In science, they do have some cows where, they have actually surgically cut a hole into the cow, into the stomach area, so they can see and test the digestive systems of a cow.
Okay.
And, I mean, it sounds a little humane, and it kind of is, but it's also... it's well maintained and it's upkept, and it's something that they can't really. The cow has probably one of the most interesting digestive systems in the animal kingdom.
Yeah, I know that we did a whole episode on cow facts, didn't we?
I think so. Yeah. So to think that they maybe just made a smaller port to. That's weird.
Okay, so here's the breakdown that I found. I found an article about it specifically.
Okay.
Not about the seaweed. This is just about that fart backpack.
Okay.
This is from bigthink.com. The backpack manages to capture and collect the gases emitted through the cow's mouth or intestinal tract via a tube inserted through the cow's skin.
Yeah.
The gas is then condensed and ready to use to provide power for the farm on which the cow lives, for example, for activities such as cooking, lighting a home, or even driving a car. So this is saying that these backpacks are used to capture the methane that cows produce and then use that methane to convert it to biofuel.
Ah, that's cool. That's actually really cool. The farm is powered by farts.
Yeah, fart farm.
Fart farm. Yay! I like it.
Okay, one more story. This is real quick before we go into the werewolf stuff, because we've been going a little long already on the non-werewolf stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a change.org petition, and I know we've talked about things that the internet has done before that's very peculiar.
Right.
And this is the one that's going on right now.
Rename fire ants to spicy boys?
Yeah, it's a change.org petition to officially rename the fire ants spicy boys. There's 80,306 supporters. You need 150,000 supporters to, I guess, be seen by somebody. I don't know how change.org works.
Okay.
The description says, it's 2016. There are 36 genders. Beyblade might be a new Olympic sport. Why aren't we calling fire ants spicy boys? And this petition will be delivered to First Lady of the United States, Michelle Obama, President Barack Obama, and founder and CEO at Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg.
Why?
And here's the letter that will go to the three of them. I believe that it is our responsibility as the younger generation to look after our world for both our futures and the future generations after us. Part of this improvement plan will be making sure our animals are happy and safe. Recently, the fire ants have been speaking to me about their discomfort with the name fire ant, as it gives them dysphoria, and we should respect their decision to be called spicy boys. There are 36 genders. Furries and bronies are active members of our community. There is a rising possibility of Beyblade becoming an Olympic sport. Why can we have this, but we can't our spicy boys?
Well, that's, it's come to my attention that our spicy boys are being spread across the Instagram account of the presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. This is fucking hilarious, and I'm proud of our spicy boys and their progress. However, it's also being said that our spicy boys movement is purely to support Donald Trump, which I'd like to clarify it's not. This petition was made to support the spicy boys, formerly known as fire ants, not Donald. People can do what they want using the spicy boys to support Donald Trump, but this movement was not originally intended for that.
And it must be said as we talk about this that they spelled boys, B-O-I-Z.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So spicy boys like a 90s rap duo.
Right.
Oh, don't read those comments. Those are pretty racist. But like weirdly racist, actually.
Yeah. I don't understand why you'd...
And that comment has 20 likes on it. I mean, obviously this is a troll thing. This is just a thing done for a joke.
Yeah, sure.
That could be why there's weirdly racist comments that have nothing to do with it at all.
Right, yeah.
Because it's just that whole troll mentality of say the most ridiculous, disgusting things as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found that entertaining.
Yeah, definitely entertaining. Stupid as balls, but entertaining, I guess.
Well, it's good to see that the younger generation is using their work for good.
Yeah. I mean, we have nothing better to do than...
rename Fire Ant Spicy Boys, which I'm behind.
Yeah?
I mean, yeah, if they want to rename Fire Ant Spicy Boys. The thing is, I actually, totally unrelated, I forgot about this note, but I've been listening to a new podcast that just started up, and I guess I'll give a random plug to a podcaster who I've never met or talked to.
Okay.
It's called Ranking the Kingdom. And the guy, it's one guy, and he's like 6 episodes in now. And he has a whole ranking system, and each episode's about half an hour, and he'll discuss an animal in what he terms the animal war on war apocalypse.
Okay.
And he ranks them to find which animal would have the highest probability of coming out on top.
Okay.
So far he has done barn owls, venomous cobras, moose, and the episode I just listened to last night was fire ants.
Okay.
And fire ants... I guess I knew this. I don't know. Have the term fire ant is just a broad term for like mini species of ants that have a sting like that.
Yeah.
So if this petition in a fictional world were to go through, you would now just refer to an entire species or a multitude of species of ants as just spicy boys.
Yes.
Would that change how science works? Like, would that change where our life is now and where things are if a petition gets enough ground for the scientific community to shrug and say, okay, I guess the petition passed, we're now calling them spicy boys?
I'm not going to say that science doesn't have a way of poking fun of itself, but I don't think that it would ever happen.
Well, and the shame is I found this petition hilarious.
Yeah.
But because the internet is so derivative of itself, there's going to be so many more fucking stupid petitions about renaming animals to other stupid things.
Yeah.
And each one will be less funny because it's like when you copy a file over and over and it loses quality every time.
Yeah.
Even if like 3 generations down the line, there's one that's 1,000 times funnier than Spicy Boys, it's just not going to have the same traction because you've seen it so many times already.
Yeah. Well, it's like the memes that get passed around where they have renamed the animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the trash panda for a raccoon. I've seen that so many times. The first time I saw it, I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, yeah, that whole list was really good.
Yeah, but I've seen trash panda on a number of different lists so many times that it's just not very funny to me anymore.
Yeah, the internet's like an Ouroboros. It's just constantly eating itself and digesting and shitting out the same things over and over until it happens to like snake away and get a tiny bite of something new, and then it just feeds that into the whole circle.
Right.
But you know, Remington, what else are Spicy Boys?
What's that?
Werewolves. Lycanthrope.
That segue was terrible and you should feel bad for it.
Why?
Because
I'm looking at a page of werewolf notes that I took.
Yeah.
And I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 14 references specifically throughout time of werewolves being spicy. So argue with the facts, Dick.
All right. I can't wait to hear these facts, Brandon. By all means, start off with your first spicy werewolf fact.
Okay. So I started to take notes. I'm going to kind of condense it to what I have.
Yeah.
Because I started to look up and take notes last night, and I knew that the idea of werewolves specifically, there was going to be a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
So I kind of branched off from werewolves into just general lycanthropy.
Right.
And what I found is that throughout human history, there have been stories of people turning into animals.
Sure. I mean, we've got vampires turning into vampire bats. We've got people turning into werewolves.
And the general term for that, which goes back way further than lycanthropy, the idea of lycanthropy, from what I could find, is based off of the term lycos from Latin, which is just Latin for wolf.
Okay.
But before that, it's called, and hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, therianthropy.
Okay.
Which is the ability of human beings to metamorphose into other animals by means of shapeshifting. So that therianthropy has been around a long, long, long time.
Okay.
And werewolfism, or turning into a wolf, has been folded into that. That's been part of therianthropy for a long time. But the idea, if I'm going to talk specifically about lycanthropy itself, lycanthropy comes about from a Roman story from I think the first recorded like writing down of this story, and one of the most famous is by a writer named Ovid. And before in BCE, I don't remember what year, it was pretty close to AD, but it's BCE, wrote a book called Metamorphoses, where he talks about different Roman myths. And there's the story of Lycaon, Lycaon.
Okay.
So it's a play off of Lycos for wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the king of Acadia. And his story is that Zeus came in human form to visit his city.
Right.
He doubted that it was actually Zeus. He doubted that he was, even if it was Zeus, he doubted that Zeus was omniscient.
Right.
So he went and killed one of his own sons and fed it to Zeus to see if Zeus could tell that it was human.
As you do.
And that specifically it was his own son.
Yeah.
Zeus did figure it out and killed everybody at the party with lightning, except for this guy. He cursed him to be a wolf, and he cursed all of his kids to be wolves as well, and their next like 50 generations to also be wolves when they were born.
Gotcha.
So that's what a lot of people point to with the first example of lycanthropy. And with bringing up Ovid in the Metamorphosis, he didn't write that story. Like, he wrote it down in his version in that book, but this has been a story that's been going around, you know, as long as Roman mythology has existed. This is just one of the stories.
Right, yeah.
And I found a lot of different versions. Some of them don't involve him being, or actually all of them involve him being turned into a wolf in some way.
Well, yeah.
But some of them don't involve the killing of the son. Some of them Zeus killed the son. But that's the most well-known, so that's why I went with that specific version of the story.
Gotcha.
But lycanthropy as an idea of turning into a wolf didn't really gain traction as meaning werewolf until like the 1500s.
Okay.
Before that, lycanthropy was considered a disease where you would go crazy and think that you were a wolf.
Right.
So that's where, if you see any references before like the 1500s to lycanthropy, specifically what they're referring to is a person who's gone insane, eats raw meat, thinks they're a wild animal, is particularly savage.
Yeah, that's clinical lycanthropy.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got some of that pulled up over here. Defined as a rare psychiatric syndrome that involves a delusion that the affected person can transform into, has transformed into, or is a non-human animal. There is I don't know who this is. The Wikipedia lists this woman, Catherine Clark Krieger, who has written that several parts of the Bible refer to King Nebuchadnezzar's behavior in Daniel 4 as being a manifestation of clinical lycanthropy. And also a neurologist by the name of Andrew Larner has written that the fate of Odysseus' crew at the hands of Circe may be one of the earliest examples of clinical lycanthropy. And that would be when Circe turned them all into animals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when they finally get to the island and they think that they're going to be okay.
Nope.
And she turns them all into... I don't think she turns them all into pigs, but I think pig was one of the main ones.
Yeah. Something I found, because I was looking into specifically where the idea of werewolves come out at the full moon, and silver kills a werewolf, and all of those things that go along with it.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. What were you saying?
I was really wanting to know that, like, that was going to be one of my questions for you, was why is the full moon the thing that wolves, or that bring werewolves out?
Okay, so I couldn't find a definitive answer.
Okay.
From what I could see, it looks like it's just as stories are passed down, things get added on. And there's a lot of different reasons that have all kind of mixed into this werewolf soup of why the full moon is something that draws them out.
Okay.
I could find a Native American folklore story, and this is from, I didn't write down the tribe of it, so I apologize for that. It was a tribe based out of Minnesota.
Okay.
And it's the story of a Native American spirit god named Weezakachek, who is a shapeshifter. And one day, the story, to distill it down as simply as possible, because I wrote very minimal notes on this, he's out in the woods and he runs across two Native American tribal boys named Keem and Machit-Yao, who are hunting in the woods, and they're trying to find a deer and they can't, and their tribe is hungry. And so they see this god, Weezakachek, and beg him, can you please find us a deer? Can you give us a deer? And Weezakachek is a shapeshifter who takes on the form of a wolf.
Okay.
And he says, no, I can't get you a deer, but I will teach you how to transform into wolves.
Okay.
As long as you don't ever kill anybody in your wolf form, I will give you this blessing.
Right.
So they say, yeah, sweet, awesome. So he gives them this ability to transform at will into wolves.
Yeah.
That's verbatim. They did say, yeah, sweet, awesome. That was in the, the breakdown in the Native American language. So as these stories are wont to do, one of them ends up getting into a fight with somebody in his tribe and killing. Right. There's a story of they go out and they catch deer, and the tribe's very prosperous for many years. Then one of them gets into a fight, turns into a wolf, and kills them. So the spirit shows up and says, seriously, guys, are you fucking kidding me? Like, it was the one thing I told you. Get over it. So he curses them then that they can no longer control their shape-shifting, and at night they turn into wolves until morning. Right. So that was one of the things I found sort of connected to the idea of werewolves and full moons. Uh-huh. But even then, like, actual as we picture it, full moon, the guy looks out the window scared and rips his shirt off as fur starts to grow. It's like, oh no. Yeah. A lot of that stems from movies, from what we've seen. Sure. If you want to go, and I kind of gave myself some liberties here, because a lot of these stories that talk about early werewolves aren't werewolves in the sense that we know them. These are werewolves in the sense of a person that turns into an actual wolf. Gotcha, yeah. So it's not like the walking on two legs, being ripped out muscle-wise, having still fingers in a sense. We're talking proper turn from human to wolf. Yeah. And But mixed in, there are those stories. Like a lot of those stories can be interchangeable. When you look through history and you read stories of people that did turn into a wolf, some of them are mixed in with they were a beast that resembled a wolf.
Right.
The thing that I found is that I read a couple scientific articles, or not scientific, but a couple articles with historians writing about werewolfism or lycanthropy. And a couple of them postulated, and I kind of agree with this, that the idea of lycanthropy and specifically turning into a wolf stems from humanity's need to explain serial killers and just really taboo, fucked up people.
Okay.
Because one of the sure signs that they would use to blame somebody for being a werewolf was killing their own family, being a cannibal, having an extreme sexual appetite, so boning, and grave digging up graves and defiling corpses, eating corpses, whatever.
Right.
Which is all things that even now in society is super taboo.
Sure.
And I don't know if that goes back to how society's progressed, or I feel like it's just one of those things that's naturally in our mammalian brain that we know don't eat your own kind. Just like most animals, you know?
Yeah.
Don't eat your own kind because you get all kind of fucked up diseases from eating your own meat.
That's true. Yeah.
Digging up graves. Corpses are just, in our mind, we know that they're gross. We know that in some way they have disease. We shouldn't touch them.
Right.
Killing your own family is, taboo. Extreme sexual appetite, I feel like when they talk about extreme sexual appetite, they talk about it in the context of like going out and mindlessly raping people throughout the towns.
Okay, gotcha.
This isn't just somebody who's kind of sleeps around.
Right.
Until the 1500s, whenever Catholicism started to really overtake a lot of Europe.
Yeah.
And they started to take these old tales of people turning into wolves for power and converting them to kind of a Christian slant, like what Catholicism did with a lot of the saints. They took old gods and then made them saints and renamed them to be like, hey, you guys can still worship your Roman gods. They're just saints in Catholicism.
Yeah.
Become Catholics or we're going to stab you to death.
Right, yeah.
They did that with lycanthropy as well. So that's more where we started to get the idea of like people viciously turning into man beasts and going through towns and raping women in the fields and ripping apart children and then, waking up in the morning naked with no memory of what they did the night before.
Right.
So that comes from the Christianization of these areas.
Gotcha. Going back to the full moon thing, what I always thought when it came to an explanation as to why it would be the full moon that would trigger the transformation, the metamorphosis, is that wolves howling tends to be more active during a full moon because it's easier for them to hunt because they can see better.
Mm-hmm.
So that means more communication between the wolves.
So it's the howling of the wolves?
Yeah. So there's an increase in wolf activity. Therefore, there would be an increase in werewolf activity as well. So, I mean, it's kind of a very thin line to walk, but just an increase in, hearing in the distance a bunch of wolves howling is unsettling to a creature like man who can be taken down by wolves.
Yeah. Well, and from what I was reading too, there was, how you've heard about the witch trials. I think we talked about those last year for Halloween.
Yeah.
During the witch trials, concurrently, there was also the werewolf trials.
Oh, okay.
And there were, I think one of the things I read, let me pull it up here real quick if I still have it. This went on really big in France.
Okay. There was Chippewa, Sioux, Ojibwe. I think those are the only, oh no.
Okay, so here's the number I was looking up. So during the werewolf trials in France between 1520 and 1630, so a period of 110 years, there were more than 30,000 recorded cases of people who claimed to be or appeared to be werewolves.
How many?
30,000.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of feeds to the mass hysteria of the time, especially with the witch trials.
Yeah.
People were just hysterical. It was a mixture of the overbearing Catholicism and Christian religion that was kind of sweeping in and trying to get rid of any non-Catholic religions and get rid of the Protestant religions.
Right.
So there was a lot of finger pointing and people selling out their neighbor because they didn't want to be the one sold out.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So One of the things that I found super interesting too is that every culture has a werewolf myth.
Okay.
And they're not necessarily werewolves. Like you look at it, and in Asia, they have were-tigers. In Africa, they have were-hyenas.
Okay.
Going back. So what it is every culture has picked one of their most frightening predators, which, in Europe and North America, I guess, is going to be the wolf because they hunt in packs. They're vicious.
Yeah.
Whereas in Asia, you've got the tiger or the leopard. Africa, you have hyenas.
Yeah.
So just humanity has taken this animal, this wild animal, this sort of boogeyman out in the woods, whatever is the most frightening for them, and connected it to the myth of I'm going to lose control and I'm going to become one of those things, or somebody I care about is going to turn into one of those things.
Right.
And I really feel like that supports a lot the hypothesis we created this idea to explain just that viciousness that some people have. When you hear like a serial killer story, you hear a Ted Bundy story and what Ted Bundy did.
Yeah.
Or the BTK killer, or anybody who does something so vicious and callous to another human, multiple humans. It scares us, I think, in a way that a lot of other things don't scare us.
Right.
Because you're viewing into where the human psyche can take you. And that's a very dark and scary place to be.
Yeah.
To see that, something switched off in your brain, or a chromosome or a piece of DNA is off or missing somewhere. How close we are to just being wild animals. And I think what it boils down to is that's where a lot of these fears come from, is that idea that we're one step away from losing control and becoming just like these things.
Gotcha. I think.
And there's a lot of stuff tied into Satanism too. Pretty much. They think that a lot of the werewolves, especially in the Middle Ages, were tied to Satanists. In the Middle Ages, one of the ways they could tell if a normal wolf was actually a werewolf is if it ran with 3 legs instead of 4. Because there was the idea that witches, whenever they would transform into an animal, could transform into any animal, but they wouldn't have a tail.
Okay.
So they carried that over to werewolves, and when you turn into a wolf, you didn't have a tail. So this is so stupid. Like, you look back at this now, and I'm sure, in 1,000 years, they'll look back at some of the things we believe and be like, what a bunch of fucking idiots.
Right.
But so they said, well, naturally, if you turn into a werewolf, you're not going to have a tail. But everybody knows werewolves don't have tails. So how do they fool us? Well, they run with 3 legs and keep their 4th leg stuck straight out to look like a tail. Yeah. So that was their way to see a wolf and tell if it was a human, was if it was running with 3 legs instead of 4. Yeah, it's just fucking ridiculous. It's so stupid.
That's
but
hilarious.
There were meetings of church leaders and town hall council meetings with the mayors of these Middle Ages cities, all sitting around like, this makes the most sense, guys.
Bob's got a point there.
Yeah. I'm just saying. What if they put the 4th leg out, like some sort of tail, right?
If it weighs the same as a duck, it must be made of wood. And therefore, a witch. A werewolf. Right, we already did witches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I've been talking a lot.
I know. I was gonna drop in with actual werewolfism.
Okay. If you want to do actual werewolfism, and then I will hit one specific story of a werewolf I found interesting, and then we can wrap up.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
So, scientifically speaking, there is a dermatological condition called hypertrichosis, also called Ambrose syndrome, which causes an abnormal amount of hair growth over the body. The earliest recorded case of hypertrichosis was Petrus Gonsalves of the Canary Islands. This was documented by Altrovandus in the mid-17th century and published in his text, A Bunch of Latin Words. I'm gonna try and butcher the hell out of this.
Do it.
Monstrorum Historia cum Paralipomenos Historiae Omnium Animalium, published in 1642.
The monstrous something of animals?
Yes. The Monstrous History, Parliamenius History, Omnium Animalium, published in 1642. So yeah, a bunch of Latin words.
What was the guy's name?
Petrus Gonsalves was the guy who actually had hypertrichosis.
Okay.
And then it was documented by Altrovandus.
Okay.
He noted that 2 daughters, a son, and a grandchild in Gonsalves's family all had hypertrichosis. He dubbed them the Ambris family after the Ambris Castle near Innsbruck, where portraits of their family was found. During the next 300 years, about 50 cases were observed. The scientist Rudolf Virchow described a form of hypertrichosis accompanied by gingivital hyperplasia in 1873.
And hypertrichosis looks like the Universal Monsters werewolf.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Almost just this massive, like, dome of hair that kind of cradles the face and grows from the head into a beard and all the way up into the cheek lines. And
when you see pictures of them, their hair looks luscious, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. There's also recorded conditions of this happening in cats as well, though, which is interesting.
I mean, where on a cat is not already covered in fur?
I know, but it's just like, it's like double fur. Like, there are certain cats that actually have 2 different kinds of coats. Like Little One, he is mostly Maine Coon cat, and they all have like a winter and a summer coat, but his is distinctively different between the 2. It's really interesting.
Okay.
As far as it goes, hypertrichosis is diagnosed I can't talk today. Not science words, apparently. Yeah. Hypertrichosis is diagnosed clinically via the occurrence of hair in excess of what is expected for age, sex, ethnicity in areas that are not androgen sensitive.
Here is a cat with hypertrichosis.
Yeah. Oh, he's so fluffy.
Yeah, it's not around his face. It stops like right at his, whatever these things are, where the whiskers are.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just like normal cat face popping out of hugely large amount of fur.
Yeah.
There is no, it can happen in any hair type. So like your hair on your head is different than that of your hair on your beard and that of the hair of the genitals. But hypertrichosis can happen to any of those types of hairs. So that's kind of another thing where it's just, it can happen all over the body because it affects all the different kinds of hairs. And there is no cure for hypertrichosis. Treatment is based on attempting to address the underlying cause. Acquired forms of hypertrichosis have a variety of sources and are usually treated by removing the factor causing it. In example, a medication with undesired side effects. All hypertrichosis, congenital or acquired, congenital meaning at birth, and then acquired is just over time.
Okay.
Can be reduced through hair removal. The treatments are categorized in 2 principal subdivisions, temporary removal and permanent removal. Treatment may have adverse effects by causing scarring, dermatitis, or hypersensitivity. I imagine that they use electrolysis. In fact, yeah, electrolysis, localized heating, laser hair removal, medications to reduce the production of testosterone or by increasing the sex hormone binding globulin. And another controls the overproduction of hair through the regulation of a luteinizing hormone. All of those words are completely lost on both of us because we aren't doctors.
Yeah.
Still, there are, basically what that boils down to is that there are a lot of medications to treat certain areas of chemical production.
Okay.
To limit the amount of chemicals that are produced in the body in the hopes of stemming hair growth, and also physical means that could cause irritation and scarring of the skins.
It sounds like that would be absolutely horrible to have, hypertrichosis. I mean, it's something you would have to live with. You know, if you're born with it, you just got it. But, I mean, you're marked in such a physical way as looking so completely different. It would have to be such a hard thing mentally on you.
Yeah.
at least at first. And I'm probably projecting and assuming, how hard it would be if I woke up tomorrow and suddenly I looked like that.
Yeah.
If you're born like that, you probably get used to it. But
well,
yeah, man, I just see those pictures and I think, like, what a sad person. Like, what a sad life.
well, I mean, yeah, it could be, but at the same time, it's all about the mentality, I suppose. I mean, I guess I wouldn't have to struggle with it as much as you because I've always been a pretty hairy guy.
Yeah.
But nothing to the extent of having hypertrichosis. I don't have that.
Yeah.
But still, aside from maybe being hot or being particularly itchy on occasions, or having to worry far more about getting things like lice or having dandruff or something to that effect.
Yeah. You think you could live with it all right?
Yeah, I don't think it would bother me that much because
I bet you would fucking own it.
Oh yeah,
I really do.
Me personally, yeah, I totally own it. I'd go every Halloween as a werewolf.
Really?
Yeah, probably.
You'd have to mix it up. For Halloween, you would have to spend like 8 hours and shave your face completely.
Yeah. See, yeah, I'd go as a normal guy for Halloween.
Yeah.
I spend my entire life as a werewolf. I can only go as a normal human being once a year.
I mean, the amount of messy foods that you would have to doubly think about eating.
For
a
sure.
Coney-style chili dog, a taco in a bowl, taco salad.
Yeah. I mean, that being said, even with as much fuzz as I keep on my face, because I'm always rocking a mustache and a goatee at least, I mean, I can feel it when I've got food and stuff in my hair.
Yeah, but now you're going to feel it everywhere on your face.
Well, I mean, I'm a fat guy, so there's not really a whole lot of food that misses my mouth, Brandon.
And you do sop it up pretty quickly.
Exactly.
But it does miss your mouth.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So me personally, yeah, I totally own that shit. But I think that, once you're told, to me, it seems like, okay, the doctors have told me that I have hypertrichosis. I'm going to grow hair for the rest of my life. I guess whenever it became an issue where people were staring or something, I would just educate them. I was like, oh yeah, I look like this because I have hypertrichosis. It causes an abnormal amount of hair growth, blah, 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 blah.
You have an outgoing enough personality that I think you would still have many girlfriends over the course of your life.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you have that, like, fat, huggable, lovable guy thing already.
Right.
I don't think it would hurt you to be covered in hair. More covered in hair. You know what I mean?
Yeah, more hair. Right.
I think you could pull it off.
Well, thanks. If I ever develop hypertrichosis, I'm glad that you have my back. I'm glad you said that because I've been slowly giving you hypertrichosis over the course of the last year. Pretty sure it doesn't work that way, Brandon.
It does because I'm a scientist now. I read 2 hours of Wikipedia articles on werewolves. I'm pretty much a fucking scientist now.
Wouldn't that... I mean, you were reading up on werewolves and the mythology, so wouldn't that make you more of a historian
Nope. Science.
Okay.
So one of the most famous werewolf stories that I found was a guy named Peter Stump.
Okay.
Who his birth date is unknown, but he died October 31st, so Halloween, 1589 in Germany.
Okay.
And his story is that he was accused of being a werewolf, obviously. And he, in actuality, was a serial killer, and he had killed quite a few people, like 10 to 20 people.
Right.
So he was captured, and this is as far as the story goes. He was captured and then under duress and torture admitted, I'm a werewolf. Satan gave me a wolf girdle that I wear that turns me into a wolf.
Okay.
That's one of the big things I didn't mention either is a lot of werewolf turning into wasn't based on the full moon. It was based on putting on like a belt or a wolf skin that would turn you into a wolf.
Huh.
Most of the werewolf mythology stems from that.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Whole, like seeing the full moon and turning is a relatively recent thing.
Huh.
Anyway, there was a pamphlet released in 1590, a 16-page pamphlet in London describing what happened to him and describing his story. I'm not going to read the entire thing because it's pretty long.
Right.
But I do want to read a part of it because this pretty much describes perfectly. Like, obviously, this story was just a sensationalist thing. It's kind of been lost to history about what actually happened. Chances are good the guy was just a serial killer, or the guy wasn't actually a serial killer at all. There's some pretty strong evidence to support the fact that at this time, again, the Catholic Church was coming in, and he was one of the more rich and powerful Protestants in this area.
Okay.
So there's some evidence to suggest that the Catholic Church kind of just grabbed him, tortured him until he admitted to all of these terrible things he'd done that he hadn't, just so then they could kill him and get him out of the way.
Okay.
And kind of send like a message of flexing their muscles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So according to this pamphlet that was released, he made a deal with the devil. The devil gave him this magic wolf girdle that he would put on and turn into a wolf.
Right.
So I'm trying to decipher this from 1590s English, where it looks like a child tried to spell things.
Right. Yeah.
And everything is super weirdly written.
Yeah.
So I will try to read it as best I can. This is an excerpt. The devil who saw him a fit instrument to perform mischief as a wicked fiend pleased with the desire of wrong and destruction, gave unto him a girdle which being put about him, he was straight transformed into the likeness of a greedy devouring wolf, strong and mighty, with eyes great and large, which in the night sparkled like unto brands of fire, a mouth great and wide, with most sharp and cruel teeth, a huge body and mighty paws. And no sooner should he put off the same girdle, but presently he should appear in his former shape, according to the proportion of a man, as if he had never been changed. So he basically said that he killed a bunch of women and children. At the time, he was married to a distant cousin.
Uh-huh.
So he was also charged with everything else, with whatever the crime of marrying a distant cousin was.
Right.
This is what makes me think that it was more kind of a dog and pony show instead of him actually being a murderer.
Right.
Is he was married to a very distant cousin that at this point would still be legal today to be married to.
Gotcha.
And I mean, in those times in 1589 Germany and Europe, I mean, they were fucking moms and dad. They were just fucking everybody. Everybody was fucking. It doesn't matter. That's how I picture 1589 Germany in like a small, quaint German town, is everybody just rolling around in a dog pile.
Right. You read that very well, by the way.
Thank you. I was trying. I actually practiced last night to get it right.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I thought that was a really cool line. And I had another one more describing his stuff in detail, but it goes into a lot of like the real violent stuff he did to kids. There's a big focus on him like killing pregnant women and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it's pretty graphic, so I didn't want to read it and bring it down too much. One of the fucked up things, though, is that not only did they kill him, they killed his daughter because he admitted under torture that he had had sex with his daughter. And his daughter said, no, that's not true at all.
Uh-huh.
But because he had said it, they also killed her and his wife.
Wow.
Like, I guess that's just the Middle Ages for you.
Yeah.
But they were like, this is what you get for being incestuous.
Yeah.
So this is from Wikipedia, and this is his execution. The execution of Stump on October 31st, 1589, and of his daughter and mistress is one of the most brutal on record. He was put to a wheel where flesh was torn from his body in 10 places with red-hot pincers, followed by his arms and legs. Then his limbs were broken with the blunt side of an axe head to prevent him from returning from the grave, before he was beheaded and his body burned on a pyre. His daughter and mistress had already been flayed and strangled and were burned along with Stump's body. As a warning against similar behavior, local authorities erected a pole with the torture wheel and the figure of a wolf on it, and at the very top they placed Peter Stump's severed head.
Huh. Boy, they were really fucked up back then.
Yeah, well, here, let me show you this here real quick. This is from the Wikipedia page. That's a drawing of the torture of him. That's him on the middle wheel there, where like his legs are broken. They're about to cut his head open. He's missing flesh all over him.
Yeah.
I assume that's two other people they thought were werewolves on the other torture wheels. I don't know.
Not necessarily. It could be different times at it.
Oh, like a time lapse of...
Yeah, where they drew it in time lapse instead of drawing like multiple scenes of it on different sheets.
Okay.
So I would say that this is a multiple scene picture depicting each instance through the execution.
I kept seeing people talk about how this was one of the most well-known werewolf cases from history.
Yeah.
And like how brutal it was. But when I read about it, like, yeah, it was brutal how they tortured him, but there's really no historical evidence to back it up that he was anything but just kind of a person they made an example out of.
Yeah.
So I don't know why this holds so much weight as being a werewolf story outside of the fact that he was accused.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was one of the first to discuss wearing like a girdle to turn into a wolf
Right.
that the devil gave him. But yeah, one of the things they were tearing at his skin with hot pincers, it said, and like ripping chunks of it off.
Yeah.
That goes back to the belief at the time that when you turned into a werewolf, your skin turned inside out. So one of the ways they would test if you were a werewolf was to just cut strips of your skin off and look underneath to see if there was any hair.
Ah, that makes sense. You know, in a medieval way.
So I'm going to real quick, just to wrap this up. I looked up ways to become a werewolf because I wanted to help our audience become werewolves themselves, because being a werewolf, from everything we've read, sounds fucking awesome.
Yeah, totally.
So I've just got a real quick list here. I wasn't able to dig as much as I wanted to find like some really good spells. I thought it'd be funny to read like an actual spell from some bullshit site.
Right.
But I wasn't able to in time. But I got some of this information from werewolves.com.
Okay.
There is just a werewolves.com.
Yeah.
And it is written like somebody who doesn't know how to write at all runs werewolves.com.
Okay.
And everything is super based on just their personal opinions with nothing to back it up at all.
Uh-huh.
So it's a hilarious site because of how kind of terrible it is. Like right now I'm looking at the many ways to become a werewolf, and there's like a stock oil painting of like this super jacked early 90s Todd McFarlane werewolf, like clip art on the side of the page. Okay. A warning, though, many of these ideas come from the Middle Ages, a time when people believed in most anything. So some things on this list may be ridiculous. So I'm just going to go through these. There's a lot of them, so I'm not going to pause. I'm just going to read through them real quick, okay?
All right, go ahead.
How to become a werewolf. Being bitten by another werewolf. Being scratched or clawed by another werewolf. Selling your soul to the devil. Wearing an enchanted belt made of wolfskin fur known as a wolf belt. Applying a magic salve to one's body. Black magic and witchcraft. Eating lycanthropous flowers, white or yellow flowers said to be in the Balkans, inhaling certain potions, simply wearing an animal's pelt, placing a real wolf pelt on one's body, and then drinking beer mixed with blood, drinking water from a wolf's paw print, eating the brains of a wolf, spells and rituals, having sex with a werewolf, wink, eating an unborn fetus, wink, wearing a belt... wearing a belt made of the skin of an executed criminal, being cursed by a witch or troll, being born on Christmas Eve. So you almost dodged that bullet of being a werewolf, Remington.
I did. That's why I'm so hairy, actually.
You just missed the cusp, being born on Christmas Day.
Yeah, it was like 12:45.
Being blasphemous and getting cursed for your sins, genetics, having a werewolf in your family, drinking from a lycanthropous stream, drinking downstream from wolves, sleeping on a Friday night under the full moon with the moon shining directly on your face.
Okay.
But yeah, that's very specific on that one.
Yeah, right.
Being the seventh son, being a child conceived under a new moon, not going to confession for 10 years. You and I are both pretty fucked on that.
Yeah.
Being gruesomely murdered on a full moon, being born on a full moon Friday, tasting human flesh, and being chosen by the Native American wolf spirit. Like I said, and then this is this author's afterthought. Like I said, folks in the Middle Age believed in anything. Instead of explaining things with science, they explained it with religion and superstition. So for those that wish to become a werewolf, don't expect any of these methods to actually work.
Oh, that's kind of sad.
Okay. But then they do go on a different page to give you a spell on how to become a werewolf. And it basically is looking in a mirror over and over for like a week straight, imagining yourself turning into a wolf. And then if it doesn't work, it's because you didn't believe hard enough.
Okay.
Yeah, but people in the Middle Ages were ridiculous for believing.
They were.
Shit.
How dare you think that you could like drink downstream from a wolf and catch lycanthropy? That's just silly. That's just silly.
You idiots.
Oh, geez. So I guess does that wrap up our werewolf talk then?
I think it does.
And that should bring to a close the podcast as well.
It does.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. This week for shout-outs, I'm going to play the call-in that we had. It's pushing 4 weeks ago now, really.
Yeah.
It's pushing a month. But, we said we'd play them, and we will play them, by God. So,
by God, we're doing it.
Hey, y'all, this here's Clyde. I'm originally from Willard, Ohio, where men are men and the sheep are nervous. Now I live in Southern Ohio. I like it a lot better. Yeah. I just want to call in. I don't know about that geek stuff y'all talk about, but I just want to say I had a teacher tell me once to lick her where she farts, And, I said, if I learned one thing from Kevin Smith movies, is you never go ass to mouth, woman. And she had me suspended, that hussy. Anyway, I just want to say, Donald Trump, make America great again, and Orange Lives Matter. Bye, y'all.
So, thank you, Cass, I think is what he said his name was.
Clyde.
Yeah. My bad.
Yeah, thanks for calling, Clyde. We appreciate the message there.
Yeah.
A couple things. It is interesting that your teacher said, lick me where I fart, and when you said something back to her, you were suspended. That sounds like there's an issue with the school that you're going to. And I know that we're not hints from Hallowe's right here, but I would say maybe go to your principal and discuss that if you are still in school and see if you can find some sort of resolution for that.
Right. And honestly, it sounds like you probably are still in school.
Yes, or hopefully are still in school.
Yeah.
As far as Donald Trump and Orange Lives Matter go, you're welcome to believe whatever you want, and we thank you for continuing to listen to this podcast, regardless of our differences politically. We can still come together under the same umbrella of whatever the reason is that you listen to this podcast.
Yeah, it's not.
If you don't like the geeky shit, I'm not sure.
I mean,
but it's great that we have such a broad expanse.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I can get behind, oranges, at least. I like oranges.
Yeah, if it was talking about oranges as the fruit, if their lives matter, I'd get behind that.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the orange lives matter by getting into my belly so I can stave off scurvy, then I'm all for it. I'm
guessing that's what he was referring to.
Okay, cool.
So thanks for calling, Clyde.
Yep. Also, other shout-outs we have. Oh, so ridiculous. Stephen Hines, being very insulted by the fact that he has a MacBook Pro, and that we also shat on albinism, however you want to say it.
We really did the double whammy there. We knew that there was one Apple-owning albino who was going to hate that episode.
Yeah, and here it was Stephen Hines. I completely forgot that he even calls himself the albino boy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fuck him.
Yeah. But I mean, to be fair, he went on to say that he loves us and wants us both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it seemed like he meant that in a sexual way.
Well, yeah.
Which I'm okay with.
You don't have to be questioning about it. I know you're okay with it. We've been down that road before, Brandon.
Yeah, that's true. That alabaster albino road.
Right.
That pretentious...
Bree commented, beta males, the lot of them. I don't think I understand that.
We're not alpha males, they're beta males. It's a step down from alpha males.
Are we alpha males or
are we beta boys? I don't know.
Huh. We're probably beta.
I mean...
Between the two of us, who's the alpha male?
See, I don't know. Because I'd like to think that I am.
Right.
But I'm a little too bitchy and whiny to really be an alpha
male. Here's why I know you're not the alpha male. Because you had to question yourself on that.
Yeah, shit.
Terry,
you're right.
Terry,
you made a good point, and you're absolutely right.
Terry W. Irvin also commented, Viscount Terry, said that the next time that we discuss some of these topics, aka the Illuminati, that we should probably build ourselves an aluminum foil deflector beanie. And he linked us a site so you can go check that out if you want to learn how to build your own beanie.
Mm-hmm. So, all I'm saying is... Terry just needs to read into Bohemian Grove and the ritual of care that they perform when they meet at Bohemian Grove. And then all will become clear to him.
So if you have any questions or comments of your own, or you'd like to hear yourself on air like Clyde just did, you can call us at 978-DUOGRES. That's 978-386-4737. You can also reach us on Twitter at Dueling Ogres, email us at duelingogres@gmail.com, or leave a comment on the Facebook page. Make sure to check out our website at duelingogres.com for articles pertaining to some of your favorite geek news. Or if you'd like to write for us, you can email us at bloggers@duelingogres.com. Huh?
I said do that.
Yes, please do that. We want some more writers.
Mm-hmm.
We'd like to hear your take on nerd news.
Nerd writer.
It'll give you some experience, and maybe you can get hired by people who actually pay you.
You really do not sell this well at all.
I know. I'm a terrible salesman. And finally, be sure to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or find us on Podbean, iHeartRadio, or Satchel, where you can donate to the show.
And why wouldn't you after an episode like this?
Everybody is asleep now after this.
I thought that was interesting.
It was very interesting.
Okay, the werewolf talk's over. You guys can wake up now. Just in time for Remington to say,
So until next week, Ogres, keep your clubs blunt.
and your tusks sharp.
Good night. So if you have any questions or comments of your own, you can hear or you. So
Great work, Rim.
Good.
Thumbs up.
good job.
Does the juiciness come through?
Yes, and whatever that was.
More juiciness.
It's so terrible. It's the worst thing ever.
Good.
Yeah, it sounds awful.
This is the episode, by the way.
Yeah. I figured
It's
it
a
was.
Halloween episode.
You just hear disgusting noises constantly.
Let's talk about werewolves.
Let's.
I got 7 more pieces to get through.
You can share yours too. It's like magic.
Hold on, let me see if I can figure it out. I'll pull up. Okay, is it sharing?
It's sharing. Yes, it is.
Okay, so I've got werewolves,
Yeah.
and then here's a guy story I'm going to talk about. Okay, I'm sorry. Oh shit, okay. Oh man.
Fucking hate you. I should have known better. Never tell Brandon that he can share something. It'll just be gay porn. Oh, Christ.
I like how there were no words spoken between us.
No.
Clicked through those.
Yeah. There you go. Look at you, Morn Frame. Your jammy pants. You jammy pants. See your dick hanging out there. Yep, there it is. Little Brandon dick.